Choosing a game to cover on a channel like this, or any medium really, is a conscious choice. Some picks are old favourites that I'm compelled to enthuse about, some have interesting origins or trivia that might not have been dug up in a while, some are games that viewers have requested, and some are booted up on a whim and catch me completely off guard with how much fun they are. Crystal Crazy is the latter, and I've sunk a heap of time into this in the last few weeks. This is undoubtedly one of the best arcade games of its era, and I couldn't help myself jumping on here to start yapping about it. Welcome then to yesteryear's Mac games, where the subject of interest today is the third game in Patrick Burkland's trio of crystal-grabbing titles for Macintosh. The first, Crystal Raider from 1985, is for very early Macs and will bomb System 7 and above as expertly demonstrated here. It is, however, one of the few games that will run on the original 128K Macintosh. The 1987 follow-up to that was Crystal Quest, which works on the Macintosh Plus and up. It was the first Mac game to have colour on the back of the release of the colour-capable Macintosh 2, and was very successful, receiving ports to the Apple IIgs, Amiga, and Game Boy, which is surprising. Crystal Quest on a D-pad sounds very different. I'd certainly like to try that one out. This game also got remade a few times, appearing on the Xbox 360 and eventually winding up on the PC via Steam, where it can be purchased for not a whole lot during a sale, although this version could do with a tune-up. There's a fair bit of complaining about various technical issues in the reviews. As a result of the success of Crystal Quest, this follow-up was surely inevitable, but it would take until 1993 for Crystal Crazy to reach completion, purportedly as a result of shoddy work from the individual contracted to make it. 6 years is a long time between games, so all momentum was effectively lost. The gamescape for computer games had also developed significantly, as much more complex titles hit shelves, and the Macintosh Air was seen getting a lot more capable. As a result, Crystal Crazy didn't sell well, and so probably sits in that horrible category of boxed games I can't afford and are never on eBay anyway because copies are so sodding sparse. Crystal Crazy will run on a Mac Plus, with a memory upgrade, and up. My footage is from an accelerated Macintosh 2, but I tried it on the faithful Pismo running 9.2 to confirm that it is indeed happy on later OSs as well. Preamble complete then, let's dig into the game. Using the mouse, the player scoots around the screen as a six-legged space cow in a flying saucer. The play area can be bigger or smaller, depending on the Mac's monitor size and available memory. Thus, I have been playing in 640 by 480, as opposed to what the game calls the Classic resolution, which accommodates the compact Macs. The sprites are small and simplistic, but this is a good thing, enabling heaps of objects to coexist on a very large play area in a way that low-res game consoles of the time could only dream of. Clicking the mouse fires the gun, which will clear the riffraff out of the player's way should they get the direction and speed right. This game has that inertia mechanic for both moving and shooting, which means speed and direction depends on where the mouse is. Move it back to the centre of its invisible box and the craft stays still, but otherwise it'll just keep moving. Munchies works like this too. This takes a bit of getting used to, as it's all too easy to start going too fast one way, then overcorrect and go too fast the other way. At least, that's what I initially found. Then I turned the mouse sensitivity down, and oh, what a difference that made. The game became significantly easier to control. Level objectives are comprised of collecting crystals, classic, ramming delicate objects against the wall, smashing, revealing or erasing images by flying over them, artful, flying over pool balls in order, numerical, and assembling a jigsaw, tactile. In later levels, these tend to get mixed together, which can get messy. Each stage is played in a set order without any randomisation of the objectives, so players can get accustomed to a bit of consistency in their playthroughs. This is also true for the types of enemy that must be dealt with. These hostiles come out of the two portals that strafe up and down the sides, and eventually, dispensers, which can be anywhere. All the entry points can be shot at to temporarily deactivate them, and will also sometimes close up when the player uses a smart bomb. Said bombs are finite, but can be picked up often enough and will clear the screen of every single nuisance should things feel a bit out of control. I was initially a bit rubbish at remembering that I had them, and could no doubt have gotten out of a few more binds with more frequent screen clearing. Contact with most enemies and their projectiles usually results in a loss of life. Other fun ways to achieve that include hitting a mine and getting the trajectory all wrong when attempting to enter the end of level gate. Get it right, and the game goes, and it's on to the next stage. This isn't the silliest noise in the game, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Complete the stage fast enough, and the wonderful bonus screen pops up. This Heath Robinson of a contraption sloshes, gurgles and belches the unused time into lots of extra points, which can sometimes be gigantic if a multiplier was run over. These are hugely valuable for a high score, so try not to pick it up until the stage's objectives have been completed, as losing a life after getting the multiplier will squander it. Dispatch 3 stages and the bonus round occurs. Zip about grabbing as many points and bombs as possible. There will also be the occasional extra life and power-up to pick up. The first few times one encounters this can be a little flustering, what with the walls closing in, but grabbing the important things from edge first to the middle will eventually become second nature. I only ever actually got squashed once. There are a good range of power-ups that can appear as pickups on the game screen. Some are for the gun, and others are shields that help in the avoidance of certain hazards. One of each type can be held at any one time, and some of their benefits are not the easiest to perceive. The first use of the Captivator can be a bit of a shock, as the hit hostile suddenly flies towards the player. I originally thought these would still kill me and couldn't work out why it was beneficial, so actively avoided picking it up for a while. In actuality, this is one of the most useful weapons, as it effectively takes the hostile out of play entirely, whereas destroying them enables them to respawn afterwards. I also like the explosive shots, which splits into shrapnel upon impact. The homing gun, in comparison, seems less useful, due to being limited to one shot on the screen at any one time. As far as shields are concerned, we have the rubber hat, which prevents this, the mace head, that slices through nasties but not projectiles or static objects, and what I feel is the most useful and perhaps even a little overpowered, the repeller, which keeps all of the nasties a good distance away. The only one I avoided was the body armour, which caused all of the game's sound files to start playing until the next stage commenced. Most of these sound effects were recorded with a microphone. From, to, with special mention to, and not forgetting my personal favourite, it feels a bit low to no budget to have so many developer-emitted sound effects, but they certainly aren't an unknown in games for computers, and they do fit into the game's overall theme of random, but in space. Nothing embodies this better than the roster of nasties that are out there to foil the player's high score plans. Visually, they have gotten a bit more detail than those in the previous game, at the loss of the editing tools that allows players to customise them. This is fine. I like what we have here, from the mostly harmless driblets in the first stage to the git brains, which, at time of recording, were the most advanced nasty that I came across. There's almost a whole page of them here that I'm not good enough to see yet, and they all have an enjoyably silly name and a snarky comment. I found the one for Hermup particularly amusing. These early game projectile firing things actually hit me a lot more than the text suggests they might. Also of note is the ship napper, which will incarcerate the player's ship in a box until it is shot enough times, the raw pucil, which charges at the player and steals points, remarkably annoying but made this moment with the mace head very satisfying, and the Valium lout, with more umlauts in its name than an entire Germanic sentence, which slows the player down on contact. Most, if not all of these, get a stage to themselves as an introduction before being shuffled in with the rest. It's the right way to do it for sure, and further mixing it up with assorted objectives makes Crystal Crazy terrifically diverse in nature. Players will not get bored halfway through a playthrough, although it is possible to save the game and come back to it later, which is uncommon for the genre. I'm now at the part of the video where I would normally suggest how things could be better, but it's particularly difficult to do so here, aside from decreasing the number of, and in some cases intensity of, the voice sound effects. While it doesn't have a plot, it brazenly doesn't care, which I respect, and the trade-off for improving the graphics further would probably have been dropping support for low-end machines. I suppose the same goes for packing in even more objectives and nasties. 3 800K floppies is enough. All in all then, Crystal Crazy is a major highlight of the Macintosh's game library, and the most fun I've had with an arcade title in yonks. This is something everybody should have on their old Macs, and I can only hope over future years that it gets a bit more acclaim than it has done up to this point. It's fun, challenging, varied, unpredictable, exciting, and brimming with character, and I won't be putting it down anytime soon. My current best score is 2,450,328, so that's your target. Give the game a go, ideally not in an emulator as they don't do this one perfectly, and then tell your mates. I've not asked viewers to share a video before, but I'd really like to help get the word out about how good Crystal Crazy is, so please consider posting this video places. That would be ace. 'Tis a real shame that the game didn't get any ports, but lousy sales will do that. Although publishers Cassidy and Green did have plans to put an OS X version together, sadly they went under before this could come to pass. I could theorise that the experience getting it out the first time was enough to dull the fondness of the game for Patrick, which could be why it didn't follow Crystal Quest onto newer systems. But after the release of this, he went on to found Stainless Games on the Isle of Wight with his pal Neil Barden, finding success most notably with Carmageddon. The studio is still going today and will turn 30 this August. That's August 2024 if you're watching this after then. At any rate, that'll do for this edition of YYsMG. Do share your high scores and anything else you want to say in the comments, and please do subscribe to keep on top of new content. I still have a list as long as my arm of things I want to cover. Thanks for watching then, and see you next time.